What an astonishing thing a book is. It's a flat object made from a tree with flexible parts on which are imprinted lots of funny dark squiggles. But one glance at it, and you're inside the mind of another person. Maybe somebody dead for thousands of years. Across the millennia, an author is speaking clearly and silently inside your head, directly to you. Writing is perhaps the greatest of human inventions, binding together people who never knew each other, citizens of distant epochs. Books break the shackles of time. A book is proof that humans are capable of working magic. And this room is filled with magic.
Welcome to the 42 Podcast, where we discuss life together, looking for answers to life, the universe, and, well, everything else. Here are your hosts, Rob and Lindsay.
How you doing on this beautiful fall day?
Are the leaves turning up there? Have they turned up there?
Oh, it's peak foliage time.
Yeah, they've just started turning a little bit in this past week.
That's so cool. Yeah, it's so funny how different. It's only like 800 miles or something, right?
It's only 800 miles. That was like a month's worth of travel 100, 200 years ago.
It's true. Yeah, it's gorgeous up here. It's amazing. I really like this time of year.
One of these days I want to go. My parents have done it a few times, going up the Northeast and seeing the leaves and the mountains and the Cog Railroad. I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
They do it for the seafood. I'm not a big seafood person. I just want to see it for the sights.
Yeah, it's pretty.
One of these years.
How was your week?
It was one of those weeks that just went by in a weird way. The kids had Monday off, so I mean that never helps, because even being home and working from home, post-pandemic, I've seen that I prefer being back in the office.
Yeah.
Because I can be a little more focused.
Yeah.
But when it's just like me and the kids home, and they have a day at home, and I work from home, it's... Yeah, no, this doesn't work like it did in the pandemic.
Yeah.
When everybody was home and they had their things they needed to go and do, and I had mine, that worked, and we came together and had lunch, and that was great.
Now they're just bored.
They're bored. Yeah. They got an extra 45 minutes of screen time, effectively.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Such is life. Yours?
Good week. Last week of soccer. True soccer. Toby had his last game. He made it to the semifinals or whatever they're called, and they lost the game, which is too bad, but at least all the scheduling is over. So that's done.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yes.
Are you one of those parents who feels horrible because you're sitting there praying in game, please lose this one, please lose, I don't want to go to the finals? Are you one of those? Wink at me twice if you can't answer verbally.
No, I'm proud of them, but the busyness of soccer, I'm really glad it's over. And Toby probably played for like a half an hour total the entire season. Because they have a really big soccer team, and it goes up to 4th to 8th grade, so the older kids obviously get precedence because of that's just the nature of things. So he played most during soccer at the scrimmages and stuff. So that's another, if he played all the time, maybe I'd be a little more excited, but, so, yeah.
But yeah, soccer is one of those, it's neat I enjoy watching a game occasionally. I've got a few kids down here who play. But it falls into this like almost cult-like status.
How so?
We've got to be, I don't know, because there's like, okay, there's fall season for soccer, then there's indoor winter season for soccer, and then there's like summer or spring pre-soccer soccer, and then summer soccer. Hey,
yeah, we don't have that. So, yeah, there's no cult. No, culty behavior going on up here with the soccer.
it's not.
We have a really small school, for one thing.
Yeah, well,
It's like 80 kids.
down here, I mean, it's been a big thing.
Yeah.
And, I mean, football's a big thing, but soccer's like the big thing in its way. Now, that may also be just the group of people I have right now. So I'm curious to see if that cycles out in the next
It's cheaper to
years,
play. It's less contact. Yeah. It's less about your size. Maybe it's more accessible to people. That's my guess.
I don't know. Well, I mean, you go over to, well, anywhere. Let me rephrase that. You go anywhere outside of the United States, and I mean, soccer is the game, the sport that everyone plays.
Yeah.
And everyone has a team they root for.
Yeah. I've read Harry Potter, I know.
So. That's Quidditch. That's different.
I know, but they talk, it's the same thing. Quidditch is the soccer. It's like an, never mind. Anyway, we read books. We read a book.
Yes, we did read a book, but
I'm terrible at this. You're going to have to pace me.
No. You said something, and I wanted to draw that out real quick for a moment. Because you said it, and I think it's interesting and relevant. So, Harry Potter.
Yeah.
It's October. We watch Harry Potter in October. Like, that's our, okay, hey, let's just do a movie night and watch Harry Potter. So yesterday we had not finished the Chamber of Secrets for Harry Potter, and then the whole news for Robbie Coltrane's death came out. So we sat, Hagrid.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You didn't know that?
Like I said, I've been in a hole.
Hagrid. Robbie Coltrane, who played Hagrid, died.
Oh, that's too bad.
So we were, finishing Chamber of Secrets, and you've got that end scene when Hagrid comes back from, oh my gosh, what's the wizard prison?
Azkaban.
Yeah, that one. Comes back from that, and all the kids are like, "Yay, we're so happy to see you!" And I'm sitting there going, "Wow, this is not cool to be watching today."
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah, but he had one thing right, the quote that's going around right now. I won't be here in 50 years, but Hagrid will. That's just a good perspective to have on life, and as we're closing out with this podcast, it's a good perspective to have here as well.
That's a good point.
Dun-dun-dun.
I know.
Great transition.
I know, you're amazing. You're amazing.
Anyway, moving on. We read a book. When did you finish?
I finished this morning at 8:25. It is now 9 o'clock. Yeah, I finished at the Wolf's Hour. Actually, I learned that the Wolf's Hour is actually 11 o'clock p.m.
Yep.
The last minute is what I mean.
Yeah, so this was an interesting book.
Yeah. It was a book that I would be very choosy who I recommend it to. Like probably most of the people I know.
Why'd you recommend it to me?
I'd never read it. I've never read it. I don't want to recommend. Personally, I don't like, for a book club, I want to read books I've never read. I like that. I prefer that. So it's a fresh experience. And
so you had no idea?
That there was super explicit sex scenes?
You had no idea?
No.
Okay.
It's going to get weird in this episode, so I'll just say I read the first sex scene and I just skipped the rest of them because I was like, blah, 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 da, 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 da. Let's just get to the story because I'm on a time crunch. And it was just like, okay, interesting. So there was a lot of sex.
You remember how when we started this podcast, And some of the back and forth, one of the moments I'm like, okay, yeah, I've watched Game of Thrones. And you're like, how could you watch Game of Thrones? That's a bad impression of you. Do you remember that whole big discussion?
Yes.
Because there was nudity and sex.
Yeah, but it wasn't so much because of the sex. It was because of your position. But yes, I do remember.
Yeah. You don't get to give me flack for that anymore.
Yeah, but that was not the point. I can read all the sex scenes I want. You can't. At least that was my position. Not the sex scenes themselves, but the fact that you're a youth pastor and etc. But anyway, yes, they were explicit.
I am married, and I have 2 children, so I've at least had sex twice.
Yes.
You're not running that never mind. You've never heard someone say that? I'm married, I have however many children, so you can assume I've had sex at least this many times?
Yeah, I've heard it, but I guess I don't know how to follow up that comment. I guess. My brain is dying.
Okay. Would you unpack that comment a bit?
No, I just don't know. I'm just bad at back and forth sometimes.
My point in that moment was just to harass you for a book that, like, every other chunk of chapters was, hey, howdy doody.
Yeah, almost to the extent where, like, I kind of feel like Robert McCammon probably has never actually... It was so... it was porn. It was totally ridiculous. And I found the character... These extremely strong women... like, in particular... Gabby at the beginning of the book, who I liked Gabby, and I didn't appreciate him dropping her like a hot potato. Totally gone out of the story, never comes back. That made me sad. But the fact that she's
I actually entirely expected that to be how every relationship happened in the book.
Of course you did. But I was irritated. First off, okay, and that's something we need to talk about, by the way, is the sex, because... But we'll get there.
That's what we are talking about.
I know, but in particular, a certain thing. But Gabby, being the super strong woman who kicks ass and is super tough, and then they're in this, like, underground place so they can bathe and like, clean up, and all of a sudden the lights go out and she's terrified, which they explain, but still it's like, oh, now they're, like, clinging to each other in the dark, and it's like, oh, come on. That irritated me.
Okay. I'm going to say this. I think what we did is we read 2 books. One book that was the cheap Harlequin romance novel that you can buy at an airport and finish in an afternoon. And one book that was an alternate history of World War II and having a little bit of fun.
Yeah, I could agree with that. And I actually read McCammon's. He has a website, and he talks about the book, and he said that he set out to write a romance thriller. So he had every intention of, like, that was what he meant to do. But I don't know if this is a good time to talk about this, but so actually you go ahead, because I have no idea. There's so many things to talk about this.
All right, bring it up. Bring it up.
Okay.
We addressed the biggest element of the book, that is like, whoa, hey, I'm standing in a grocery store line listening to the book going, I gotta find my phone, which pocket's it in. Let's skip through these next 5 chapters.
Yeah. So, the main character is Michael Galatine. How do they pronounce it in the book? Galatine or Gallatin?
I actually don't remember.
I think it's Galatine.
Yeah, we'll just say it's that way.
And he grew up in Russia. His parents were wealthy, and this is the time of the revolution, and his old name was Mikhail before he became Michael when he was a child, and he's having a picnic with his father, who was a general for the Tsar. Some men come into the woods, and Mikhail had gone into the woods. There was like a little clearing with a lake, and they were picnicking there, and Mikhail had lost his kite into the woods, so he goes into the woods. Meanwhile, gunners come into the area and shoot his parents and his sister. So he's in the woods running away from them and gets bitten by a wolf and dragged, taken to the White Palace, they called it. I think the White Palace. It was this building, abandoned, maybe monastery or something. So he's there, and he goes through this terrible transition that it's said that most, or I don't know most, but a lot of people don't even live through the transition from human to werewolf, to that. It's kind of like you die. It's kind of like Interview with a Vampire, because in that story, you have to die essentially before you become a vampire. Like, you go through this process and it's agonizing, and then you become a vampire. It's reminded me of that. So he's in this place and he adjusts and he's really strong, and Victor, who is sort of the father figure there, he becomes his confidant and teaches him how to be a werewolf, and it's fantastic. But something that they talk about in the story is that there's the female werewolf people have been trying to get pregnant because they want to, their pack is small, they want to expand the pack, but the babies keep dying, either at birth or within a month, because they can't handle the war in them between man and beast. So they either die in the womb or they die soon after. Sorry, you're frozen. I'm just going to make sure you're coming back.
5 minutes later.
I'm back.
Oh, so anyway, my point was they established the fact that pregnancy for werewolf human beings, human beast hybrids, is extremely dangerous for the woman, and it's extremely dangerous for the baby, and the baby is in agony. Agony. And the thing that disturbed me was the fact that Michael has sex willy-nilly wherever he wants to, like a wild animal, without a thought to the little babies he's leaving everywhere, the werewolf babies. Also, my thought, like almost at the end of the book, he spends a lot of time as a wolf in that abandoned village on the island that they end up at, and with a wolf pack that sort of accept him for 2 weeks. It turns out he's there for 2 weeks, and there's a wolf there that fancies him. So my question is, if he has sex with those wolves, does that wolf have human wolf hybrids? So like reverse werewolves, where they're most of the time a wolf and sometimes become a human? I think this is problematic. Or at least really weird and confusing. Or not confusing, but definitely weird and disturbing. Disturbing, that's the word I'm looking for. It's disturbing that he has sex with these women and assumes everything's fine, and if they get pregnant, oh well. And I don't like that. And obviously, maybe he never thought of that, but it's yucky.
My assumption was that he could only procreate with another werewolf.
Why would you assume that?
Because it's never explicitly laid out, and it becomes a problem, like you've said.
You're a very kind person.
Okay. Well...
Or how would he know that? How would he know that? You know? That's the disturbing part.
Yes.
That's
so,
disturbing.
Here's where the assumption comes in. I'm not assuming it on the character that's written. He's a jerk. Yeah. I'm assuming it on the intent of the author.
Okay.
Honestly, that's where I'm assuming it of. It's probably an oversight. I don't think it would be something where it'd be like, oh yes, let's write this horrible aspect in to really make sure that you think this guy is horrible. I'm just assuming it as an oversight and just that he...
Loophole.
Yeah. And not because I want the character to be good. I think the character's a jerk.
Yeah, he's a philandering jerk.
I mean, he's...
brave, loyal, he's a good friend. He had a lot of really great qualities, except for the fact that he just couldn't keep it in his pants.
Alright, so moving...
and was mean to the... Okay, sorry.
You're okay.
I still feel so bad for Gabby. I feel so bad for Gabby. She's like, I love you. And he's like, no, you don't. Okay. Come on!
All right. Moving away from that, because it was weird and awkward. Where were you with the story of the book in World War II? Was there a section of that that stood out and you're like, ooh, I like that. That's good. That's weird. That's, what of the book that was not the sexy time was good?
Okay, besides that side of the story, we're moving on. I thought it was, all the scenes were very vivid. I could picture everything very clearly in my head. And in that way, he did a really good job. Like, I have such a clear memory of all of those scenes. Like, from the very beginning, him hiding in the hayloft when they first land, and that guy's getting beat to crap by Boots.
Yep.
The Brimstone Club?
Yep.
Was almost a caricature of Nazi brutality. And I think that's part of the story, too, is the Nazis are so evil, except for Mouse, who didn't have the stomach to be a Nazi. But, wow, the Brimstone Club was so awful. I had to look it up, and everything's fake in the story, except for D-Day. I looked up the Brimstone Club. There's no such club. Historically, and I don't know, maybe there was something like it, but it was disgusting. And in this club, for those of you who haven't read, but we're just spoiling everything for you, so it was basically a sadism club where they capture these people. Like, one guy looked like Winston Churchill, and they put him on stage, and this woman who only had boots on whipped him, but not like fun whipping, like bad, like he was, I mean, not like fun whipping where there's no blood. There's blood. Okay, can I just say, don't look at me like that. I mean, in, like, on shows and in pornography, you're not supposed to actually make anybody bleed. It's just playing. It's just for fun. Stop it. Don't look at me like that. I'm not confessing anything. You don't know anything, and I'm not saying anything. I'm just... There's no pain. There's no blood.
I'm just stuck at the point of you use the word... I can't even say it with...
Well, isn't that why people do it? Isn't that why people do it? Because it's fun?
I don't know.
Why do people do anything to do with sex? Because it's fun.
Okay. Fun whipping is a strange sentence.
Okay, so anyway, they also make this woman dance on glass, and etc., etc. It's terrible, awful, and our hero, Michael Galatine, can't even be in the same room. He has to leave because he's sick. And also, he has to scale the walls of the Reichskronen, which means the Imperial Crown. I looked it up. So now you're going to talk, and I'm going to shut up.
So, I mean...
So I'm editing this week.
I could see, like, if you have Fun Whip. No, that one fell dead. Fine.
What I don't know what you're saying.
Fun Whip, you know, the thing you shake and you go, ah.
Oh.
Moving on. One of my favorite parts of the book, because it was absolutely ridiculous, and I found it to be just kind of leaning into the horror trope and what I wanted. Okay, what is it, Lindsay?
You're going to say the train, aren't you?
The murder train.
The train? I love the murder train.
The murder train was... When I got to that point, I was like, oh, okay, I think I could enjoy if the book stayed in this lane, where it's just absolutely ridiculous. Because, so, you know, you have, what was that, Brimstone Club, and Michael goes and he breaks into the rooms to get the intelligence he needs, and then he gets knocked out, kidnapped, and taken to a train that is circling Berlin.
And it's totally unrelated to the main plot.
I was actually hoping that they were going to lean more into that, and that it would just become, like, levels more ridiculous, almost Wolfenstein-ish ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, did you ever play Wolfenstein?
Harry Sandler. I've seen people play it, but I've never played it myself. I didn't really like it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was... He's kidnapped because Michael's his cover story is he's a baron and he's engaged to Chesna Van Dorn, who is a very famous American-born, but she's a German movie star now. So they're engaged, and this guy, Harry Sandler, who is from the beginning of the book, he assassinated somebody that Michael was sleeping with. Mm-hmm. And and he might have had feelings for her, I guess, or I don't know, maybe he just offended his sense of, I don't know, maybe he actually had feelings for her because they'd seen each other before. So he saw her more than one time. Sorry, getting off track. So anyway, Harry Sandler is the guy that that had the murder train, that murdered the person at the beginning. So Michael's side quest is sort of trying to kill that guy. So he ends up on this murder train. Continue.
When that happened, that was the point in the book where I was like, ooh, I really hope they lean into that ridiculous. They never did. But it was just a fun little aside.
Yeah. The murder train. It was all Agatha Christie-y and / horror. It was like Agatha Christie horror and the traps on the train. And then all of a sudden, there's this car that's pitch black with a maze of...
razors.
Razors. That was yucky. I wonder how they'd filmed that.
Oh, there are a lot of ways you could do that.
Like a maybe overhead camera that has infrared. I don't know what technology was in the day, but it was very scary and exciting. That was a really good scene.
I wouldn't do an overhead with infrared. I would do a camera at the end of the car and you set it up so it's razor wire. So you have a shot going through the razor wire and you can see them trying to find the path through.
Night vision, I think I meant, not infrared. Night vision.
Same thing. Not the same thing, but...
yeah. I think you could probably see more detail, because infrared is just
you don't
big
want
colors.
The detail. You want that darkness. You want that...
Oh! With infrared, if they go against the razors, you'd see, like, splashing, glowing blood.
No.
That'd be... Yes, you would.
Want like a
You're
dark...
so contrary to everything I say.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Continue.
No, I won't. No, but you want dark but red lighting. You want to build the tension into.
You're the one
scene.
who just said it was the same thing. You're the one who just said it was the same thing.
I'm not saying use night vision or infrared. I'm just saying you set it so it's a dark, primarily dark, red backlighting. I think that would build a better tension, but neither of us are movie directors, so...
I think it would be like Sin City, that Frank Miller guy. I think it would look like that. I think it would look really comic booky and interesting to have the sprays of blood go and it looks red, or like all of a sudden there's like blood smeared on the wall here, and all of a sudden there's blood on the floor here, and...
Yeah, I watched Sin City once.
Me too. I only watched... Actually, I didn't finish it. Haha.
I did finish it because I'm going to start it, I want to finish it. And I was like, yeah, that's never happening again. Ever.
No. Anyway.
I need to go take a shower.
But that's what I'm... yeah.
Because that was rough.
Yeah.
That was very rough. All right, anyway. So yes, the murder train was probably one of the funnest parts of the book. I was really hoping they'd just keep leaning into that ridiculous from there.
Well, they do with the, it happened before, but the whole thing with the hawk, the fight with the hawk.
That's before Murder Train.
In the hotel room. I know, but that was ridiculous.
Well, yeah, it was.
Totally ridiculous.
But, you know, you get the murder train and you're...
Most of it was very ridiculous. Okay, another part that was kind of Frank Miller-y, actually. This movie should be directed by Frank Miller. If it's ever a movie, Frank Miller should do it. That scene where his name was beginning with a K. He was a top guard at Franken whatever, that concentration camp that Blotz, the one that he was in charge of. That scene where Michael has already escaped from the concentration camp. Everybody's getting away in the car, and he heads back as a wolf into the camp and is chased by Cronin. I think his name's Cronin or something. Or Kraus. Cronin or Kraus. And he's getting chased, and, well, he's chasing Kraus now, and he ends up fleeing into this huge pit of bodies, which is very on the nose, like, as far as symbolism goes. He's crawling across, and the bodies shift, and he's sort of swallowed under this mass grave, and it's like he's drowning under a sea of bodies. That was very vivid. I thought that was terrifying and apt way for that man to die. To be suffocated under a sea of bodies.
Of bodies that he's killed.
That he's responsible for killing.
Yeah, and there were those moments, and you can do that as an author, where you do the poetic justice, and, you know, that feels a little bit of a vindication there, and yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I can appreciate that, but it just, I felt like we got the murder train plot, and we just kind of fell short, where it should have just escalated up to absolute ridiculous.
Yeah, you're right, because it did kind of peak in a way there with the ridiculous, and should have continued to be ridiculous.
Like, I got to a point in the book where I was expecting, like, this end battle of Michael as the wolf fighting decrepit and delusional Hitler, who's like, oh, the wolf is a good sign, and, you know, okay, no, it's not, it's coming to kill you. Like, I was entirely hoping for that, and then they just kind of realized, oh yeah, I guess we're not exactly alt history, but we are alt history, so we're just gonna not change anything.
It's like framed in with Hitler. Yeah.
And it just, no, come on. You had the momentum. You could have ended it in that direction, and who cares? You're alt history anyway, because... Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden we had to get a lot more realistic.
Like,
yeah, you're right. It was very comic booky until that scene where he escapes the death train, murder train.
And then we overstep, realize we got to go back into our bounds, our safety lanes, so we don't change anything, even though we're changing everything.
Yeah.
So
it's like that's kind of where he ran out of the really good ideas. And just sort of went back to it being a World War II spy novel.
It wasn't bad, although I did figure out the flying fortress thing pretty quick, and then they drag you along with him on that, and it's just painful.
Yeah, I figured it out when he was talking to the pilot in the concentration camp, because obviously nothing is wasted. No words are wasted, so I was like, oh, okay. Iron Fist is a plane. Yeah, you're pretty dead on. Because after that, it's good. It's just a different style writing. It's just different style after that. Because the Mouse side story, I liked him.
I did like Mouse.
I liked Mouse a lot. I thought he was interesting, and he really grew on me. And I thought Michael's trust in him was really interesting, but sort of not like Michael.
The part...
He considered him a friend very quickly, I thought.
The interesting part for me is, they introduce Mouse early in the book. Michael gets into occupied France. And they introduce Mouse as a deserter who is just pickpocketing and mugging people to get by. And I like how they did it where when he takes him back to the underground headquarters, Mouse is leaning into wanting to make good food. This is good soup. but it could use a clove of garlic. I could do this.
Yeah.
This is a well-organized kitchen. And he's leaning into this aspect of food.
Being human.
It's not just being human, but it's being connective. Being real. And so I like that with what he did with Mouse, because it brought the character more alive than anybody else. That wasn't Michael. Because you connected with him in that way. So when Mouse dies, you're feeling that. You have connections. He was a good secondary character and well built into the story. I see the gears spinning. Where are you at?
Oh, well, another part I really liked about the story was the train. How there's a lot of trains in the story. And the one where he's a wolf, he's still living with his wolf clan.
Oh, yeah.
As a young man. And trying to outrun the train with his friend Nikita. That side story was I really liked that. Him being in the woods and trying to decide if he is a man or a beast. And Nikita's death just was awful. I don't know. It was really sad. But I liked the parts with the clan. I liked that side. I liked that those parts of the book were talking about what the clan was like, and that random wolf, the
Berserker?
Yeah, the Berserker, which they didn't really get into much. Was the Berserker a werewolf?
I think it's implied.
Okay.
But it was someone who had leaned more into...
The beast.
Right, being the beast than being a man, whereas the pack that Michael's a part of is trying to balance both beast and man. Mm-hmm. Because you have that element in there with Victor and how they have this huge library that was a part of the White Castle that they had access to. So Victor's teaching and educating Michael because he sees something different in Michael than in the rest of the pack, but they're... Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Berserker offered a good...
Foil?
Introduction for Michael's first transformation and, kind of that subtle clues of balancing being the beast or the man, and
Yeah, there's a lot of good tension between polarities in the story between beast and man, and how the Nazis are bestial and disgusting.
But not... And that was another little interesting bit where it was bestial, not just in the sense of the loyalty that you can have from a dog, the goodness that is a dog or a wolf in that sense.
More like the Berserker.
Right. Just more raw, untamed. Life doesn't matter.
Yeah, and not even animals are really like that. That's the thing. Animals aren't even really like that. Except for the rare ones that kind of go rogue, or I don't know. They have family. They don't hurt people just for fun. They don't kill for fun. They kill because they're hungry for the most part. I do think there are some instances, I can't remember, of killing for fun, but it's very rare as far as I know.
And how did you feel with the end of the book?
You go first.
Again, I was disappointed. I was really hoping that it would be, oh, look, we can turn this plane around and help end the war kind of thing. Not crashing in the channel. And I felt like, again, there was just that you need to escalate it. You need to make it what you have leaned into. Because you have this great fight for control on the plane that is carrying bombs back to London that's going to devastate London, killing thousands of people in a horrific manner, because you find out that they've developed this chemical gas that basically turns beast mode on for the bacteria and just self-digests the victims.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. And I saw what they did. beforehand where it was like, oh, but the only thing that neutralizes it is salt water.
Yeah, like, oh, okay.
And so I'm sitting there and I'm going, oh, great. So we're going to crash the plane in the channel. Mm-hmm. Oh, look, we crashed the plane in the channel. Predictable.
Yeah. What would you have done, do you think?
I would have had them take control of it and, destroy a section of the German army or Berlin or something. Again, that ridiculous nature. Just, okay, let's make it so that they crash land the plane in Berlin in the Nazi headquarters, and now Michael has the chance to fight Hitler as the wolf. Yay! It's ridiculous.
You know why I think he didn't do that? You know how we talked about the end caps? Hitler was the end cap?
Yeah.
I think that was like, this is the beginning of the alt history with the painting of the wolf, and this is the end of the alt history with him destroying the wolf picture. And so I think it had to end in a way that sort of resumes normal history, which would be D-Day happens as planned, and nothing stops it. That's just why I think that he did it that way, too. I think it was like a
book ending, yeah.
Yeah. Because now it's normal history and we can move on because there's no such thing as the weapon anymore. The weapon's been destroyed.
See, but that's what I didn't like, where it was just, you know what, lean into being an alternate in history. Don't try and make this little chunk that fits in. Just make it weird.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch Amazon Prime's The Man in the High Castle?
I started it. It kind of lost me. I didn't really like
really?
it. Yeah, it wasn't quite good enough for me, I guess.
Really? I enjoyed that. And I liked how they lean into, again, being that old history and playing out those storylines that are disturbing and just but they were good. It was a good storytelling, and then, yeah, I get it. How they finish, because that's where the storyline is weird. Mm-hmm. But it was a good weird to finish on.
I read the book.
The book was good too, but the book didn't take the same route in ending as the show, but it wasn't bad. The book was Robert Heinlein, right?
No, I thought it was Philip K. Dick.
Yep, you're right, Philip K. Dick. I think we've talked about this before, but the I forget what they're called, but the sticks that are used to, the one guy in the book uses, and he throws them up in the air, and you translate the symbols and make a decision based off of that.
Yep.
Philip K. Dick used that to write the story. Like, ooh,
really?
I have a decision point in the story. He used the stick things. Oh, why can't I remember what they're called?
No way.
Yeah. Yeah, they actually have a name.
I guess that's why the story was so unsatisfying at the end there.
I Ching.
What was that? What'd you say?
I Ching. I think it's I Ching. It's the book and everything that is used. Anyway, I thought it was fascinating. I enjoyed that bit of alt history that Philip K. Dick did with that Amazon Prime did with that. And I like it when they lean into it. And it can be unsettling and weird, but that's kind of the point of it. Mm-hmm. And doing it in such a way that, no, that's not what I want, but it's there. Mm-hmm. And that's what I kept hoping for and expecting in this book. And it manifested once. So. Yeah.
Overall, I'd give it a 3 out of 5.
According to Amazon Prime, it's a 4.5, and according to Goodreads, it's a 4.
Yeah.
So.
I give it a 3 because the sex stuff was ridiculous. And I couldn't really recommend this book to hardly anybody.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was not expecting that. And it really did get explicit and fast. A lot. Like, is that truly necessary? Nope.
Yeah, it was... you can't really get more explicit than what they did, so... But anyway, mostly it was good.
Yep.
So that's our last book club.
Yeah, that's it. How you feeling?
Good. I'm feeling good.
We've got one more episode left.
Yep.
We're just going to talk about some of the things that we've enjoyed and appreciated from the past 2 years of doing this.
Yep. Our farewell episode.
Yep. Yeah, I'm hoping to have at least something to announce next week.
Yay!
So, yeah, good stuff. Alright, I gotta go pick up a 12-passenger van.
Okay, have fun.
Yep.
Bye, everybody.
We'll see you, Lindsay.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the 42 podcast. Please take a moment to like and subscribe, and if you want to join in on the conversation, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter to add your voice to the conversation. Thank you.